Support for WBFO and What's Next comes from our members and from Health Foundation for Western and Central New York, where racial and socioeconomic health equity are prioritized. Learn more about building healthier neighborhoods at hfwcny.org.
From Buffalo Toronto Public Media, this is What's Next, an hour dedicated to amplifying the voices of marginalized and underrepresented communities across Western New York and Southern Ontario.
We cannot erase, we cannot reform, we cannot make things better if we're uncomfortable having tough conversations,
Absolutely.
if we're uncomfortable talking about race.
What's Next carries forward our mission to engage in meaningful conversations about race, equity, and the shared concerns that deeply affect Buffalo's East Side and beyond.
Don't stop. Make those families part of your life. Their lives are part of yours. Don't stop.
Together, we dive into the real issues, striving for understanding, connection, and change.
In the suburban area, everywhere, we must work and teach our children.
From Buffalo Toronto Public Media, this is What's Next. I'm Jay Moran. Recently, my colleague, Khadara Wright, and I were invited to the Buffalo Academy of the Sacred Heart for their annual Day of Sharing. A school tradition, the effort works to immerse the entire student body into a prominent social issue. This year, the focus was on refugees. Leading us through the school was Bridget McGinnis, head of campus ministry.
It really resonates with the mission of the school to have an opportunity to show girls kind of something beyond their normal purview, you know?
With 4 different workshops running throughout the morning, students had a chance to hear more about the refugee experience from different perspectives.
Wheels for Workers 716 was one of the organizations that taught students how to repair and fix bikes.
Several volunteers were there from Wheels for Workers. We spoke with John and John.
Why do you want to come to Sacred Heart to talk to the students?
We really value this partnership because, what we do with Wheels for Workers is engage the community in getting donated bikes, fixing them up, and getting them out to people who need them for primary transportation. And we think this is working with young people is a good way to get that message out.
Now, how many bikes are you distributing on an annual basis?
So last year we did 1,800. So we started 3 years ago just as an idea, and this will be our 4th year. But last year we were able to get 1,800 bikes out into the community.
And where are you getting the bikes from?
Through the generosity of the general public. We get them, people donate their bikes if they no longer want to ride, or we partner with several local police departments, and they give us bikes that are abandoned.
Just events like this, you can see there's bikes over there. In anticipation of the event, the kids brought in bikes. So that's a good experience for them also.
So they come from the community and they go back into the community.
Right.
So.
And I would assume, I'm just thinking of my garage and how many bikes I have there that aren't being used.
You're not unusual with that comment.
I was just thinking
we can help you with that situation.
Right, of course.
Pick them up also.
But I'm going to start riding in tomorrow, right?
Well, of course, yeah.
You're a prototype for we deal with Journey's End, Jewish Family Services, Catholic Charities, Vive, a lot of immigrant communities that need the bikes to get to work because they don't have transportation.
What do you hear about? You must hear about the bikes then. What ends up happening to them, how they get utilized, and what are you hearing from some of the individuals that are getting those bikes? And do you hear any feedback from them?
When we hear about it, they're thrilled. It's a difference between getting to work and not. It's a difference between providing food for your family and not, to many of them.
So we have one spot that has a facility that's quite a distance from the first bus stop. It's about a mile. So we can fill in that gap where they can take the bike to the bus and then the bus to work. So, it is, at least the feedback that we've gotten is it's very useful, and it gives them some means of transportation so they don't have to walk every place they go.
And is there a need for more bikes then?
Always a need for more bikes.
Yeah? Even though 1,800 were distributed last year?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's hard to believe that the need continues.
Right.
Every year it grows. I don't know if there's going to be a tipping point or not, but it keeps growing.
So how many, like, say, your first year doing it, did you give out that year?
I think we did.
Or so.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And then we grew exponentially the next year to over 1,000, and then 1,800 last year.
Right.
And these are 1,800 bikes that are not going into landfills, by the way. It's just there's a lot of different levels of good things happening here.
Right. Very good. So if somebody wanted to find out more about what you guys do, what would they do?
Wheelsforworkers.org is probably the best place.
Right.
Yeah.
You're John, and he was...
and John.
Oh, John and John.
Just to make
and
it
the other
from St. John's, right?
The executive director's name is John.
And one of the students taking part in the workshop was Monica Hajeli.
Hi, Monica. I'm Jay.
Nice to meet you.
She's a senior. I'm going to be very sorry to see her graduate. She's a terrific person. So.
And this is Khadara. So what are you learning here?
So we're fixing bikes right now. We're learning how to take the tube out of the tire and fix that up, which is something I've never done before, but it's really interesting, and I love that. Like, this is something I would never think to do to help my community, and yet it's like right in Sacred Heart's backyard. So that's just kind of nice, and that's what I love about Day of Sharing is like you get involved in community in ways that you're not always exposed to on a daily basis. So I think that's really nice, and that's like the heart of Sacred Heart. I feel like is just community and serving others in unique ways that are needed in the world.
So this is your 4th day of sharing.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, and I'm gonna miss it so much. This is one of my favorite days, I think. And I mean, obviously, for the reason I said before, I love community service, and I feel like Sacred Heart has kind of shown me that. Like, that's not something that I realized about myself until we did this, and all the different sites that I've been at on all the different days of sharing have kind of just shown me some new places where I can get involved and do some helping.
I'm going to go on the assumption you're going off to college somewhere?
Yes, yep.
What are your plans?
I'm going to SUNY Geneseo for English adolescence education.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And what about the things you've learned from like the Day of Sharing? Is that something you think you might want to try to explore moving forward?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I've also volunteered at the Mother Teresa home in Buffalo, and that's definitely somewhere I want to go back to. I haven't gotten to yet, but I'm definitely thinking this summer I want to, do now that I won't have like schoolwork to do in the summer, I want to kind of do some more volunteering over the summer. So right. I think I'm going to return to some of the places that I've gotten to go to. So
senior.
Yep.
Going to graduate.
Yes.
No problem.
Yep.
Wow. Very much unlike what I did when I was a senior. It's nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thanks so much. Very good.
This is What's Next on Buffalo Toronto Public Media NPR. I'm Khadara Wright. After spending a day at Sacred Heart, it was eye-opening that the Day of Sharing is something that more schools should participate in. The day was filled with activities that allowed countries to share their culture and teach essential skills.
Okay, very good.
2 staff members from Journey's End Refugee Services showed a film centered on the realities facing a young refugee. Another session provided students with food samples from a number of cultures whose people have now made Buffalo their home.
Remember, you gotta get out of your house fast, so let's go. Make choices.
Another session attempted to simulate the hectic, real consequences for the millions in the world who are refugees.
All right, 10, 9, 8, 7.
Deacon Don Weigel of Catholic Relief Services places students into small groups as if they are families of refugees. Each lists the 6 items they want to take on their journey into the unknown before circumstances arise that force them to choose what other possessions need to be jettisoned along the way.
And you're ready to go up the mountain, but guess what? It's a steep mountain, and it's clear that your bag is too heavy. So look at your bag and take out the heaviest thing in your bag.
Deacon Weigel has been with Catholic Relief Services for 15 years. While he has experience assisting refugees in foreign countries, he is also called upon to speak at Catholic parishes in search of financial support.
You were talking about a couple of your experiences in Greece helping out Syrian refugees. Mm-hmm. Very rewarding, but I can only imagine there's a lot of heartbreak in there too.
Yeah, so much so that you can't, especially as Catholics, can't really do those sorts of things without an opportunity to reflect at the end of the day and kind of recognize what that does to you spiritually and what insights you have, how you grow in your faith from doing that. So you need some spiritual guidance every day because of what you experience. Because some of those situations are really, really difficult to watch and to be a part of.
You go to different parishes, and probably looking out at your parish, at the gathering, there are people who, you don't have to preach about this, right? They're on board right away. Right. But at the same time, the reality is there are other people who aren't like that. And I'm just wondering if you've ever had any kind of verbal pushback on what you're doing and how you're preaching in these parishes.
So I've been ordained almost 15 years. And even when I'm not preaching for CRS, I'm typically weaving in some message about Catholic social teaching or concern for the marginalized or something like that. And because of that, over the last 15 years, to be honest with you, Jay, I'm surprised when I don't get pushback. Because almost every time somebody will come up and say, oh yeah, well, I've got a brother who blah, blah, or something. These people are such a, it's like, and you're preaching to Catholics. You're preaching to people who are professing to live the gospel, right? And so I try to have, rather than just react with them or something, I think it's a teachable moment to say, well, how does that opinion line up with what you know about Jesus, about who he was and what he does? How does that line up with your faith when you come on Sunday and stuff? And sometimes we have an excellent conversation, and sometimes people just keep yelling.
I've experienced that myself.
Yeah.
And then finally, so again, you've immersed yourself in this issue. What do you want people to know about the refugee experience, the reality of refugees, not only here in the United States, but of course around the world?
I think what I'd like people to understand is that nobody becomes a refugee because they want to. These are all people in desperate situations, and they are looking for any haven that's going to keep them and their family safe. And whatever process they've got to go through, they're willing to sacrifice for the safety and betterment of their family, right? So sometimes that means being in a refugee camp for years. Sometimes it means, working through the process to become, classified as a refugee, whatever it is. And people are sent to places that they don't necessarily choose. So you can be in a refugee camp and UN says you're going to New York, wherever that is, or you're going to Canada, and so they go, And I think what I'd like people to know is that the lack of choice that refugees have. They don't choose to be a refugee. Everyone would prefer to stay in their home. They don't choose where they get to land up. They don't, this is everybody making choices for them. And so they are, if you've spoken to any refugees, we got tons of them on the west side, especially in Buffalo. They are so grateful for the opportunity to kind of rebuild a life. And I think that's what people really have to understand. These are people like you and me who just want safety and security, and they want to do more than survive. They want to thrive, and that's really what they're looking for.
Thanks for working. Thanks for your time.
Okay. Thank you, Jay.
Stay with us. There's more to come. This is What's Next on Buffalo Toronto Public Media, NPR.
The headlines don't stop. The world keeps moving, and through it all, you need news and information you can trust. That's where we come in. WBFO is now Buffalo Toronto Public Media, NPR. Same station, same trusted journalism, just with a new name. From Morning Edition to All Things Considered, from Group Chat to Friday Night Lights, from What's Next to the BBC, we bring you the stories and smart conversations that matter. No spin, no nonsense, just the perfect mix of news, information, and entertainment. Listen anytime on the BTPM Listen app or btpm.org.
We at Buffalo Toronto Public Media love to bring you your favorite national programs, but we know that it's our local programs and reporting that make WBFO truly unique. For example, our Disabilities Beat reporting elevates marginalized voices.
But I thought it was wrong that there seemed to be an invisible barrier between the ableist world and the people with disabilities. And I said, I'm going to find a way to fix that.
This is Public Media.
You're listening to What's Next, our place to discuss the important issues of our communities of Western New York and Southern Ontario. We want to hear from you. Click on the Talk to Us option in the BTPM Listen app, and we will work to get your questions or comments on the air. Do you have a story or concern that we should be addressing? Email us using whatsnext@btpm.org. Together, we'll have the conversations that are needed. This is Buffalo Toronto Public Media, NPR.
This is What's Next on Buffalo Toronto Public Media, NPR. I'm Khadara Wright.
And I'm Jay Moran. We are continuing our recent conversations at the Buffalo Academy of the Sacred Heart during their Day of Sharing. We also had the chance to speak with 3 students who took part in the final project for their class on Catholic social teachings. Their assignment? To prepare homes for the arrival of 2 refugee families to the region. They were 2 of the final refugee families to get to Buffalo before resettlement was suspended by the Trump administration. This is Charlotte Rich. Tell me about your class project.
We split up between the juniors, and we went to 2 separate houses, and we basically furnished. We had all donations, and we just completely furnished the house, and even gave them more than just furniture and necessities. We gave them pillows, toys, comforters, kind of just things that you would find in a house that maybe not everyone gets to have. And it was all donated, so everyone kind of pitched in to donate microwaves, everything from microwaves to like toys and clothes and blankets, to make a house a home and to make it for people who don't have what the average person would have.
What do you know about the families or family that you whose house that you set up?
They were, I don't know much about the other one, but I know the one we had, there was children, I think maybe 3. And there were 2 girls and a boy, and I was part of their bedrooms, so I helped making their bedroom super nice, super cozy, super functional as well, making sure they have that kind of just space where they can be kids and not feel very isolated.
And was there a special touch that you made sure that was in there just because it was something you thought was special? We
put a dollhouse in there for the girls because they're young. And the pillows we had I thought were very cute. We had this chair in the corner. And we had a bunch of cute pillows, a bunch of fluffy pillows, sequins, like stuff that little girls would love to like just be comfortable with. And we made their beds nice because there's 2 girls and they're sharing a bed, so we tried to make it as equal as possible. So they could just be happy with that. And I think, the toys, I think they'll really enjoy.
While Charlotte's group prepared a home for a family fleeing Afghanistan, Jayla Stevens and her group helped out a family coming from Burma.
We had 2 completely different experiences. Theirs was a little bit more smooth. We had a couple more bumps in the road, which I feel was more of an eye-opener in our experience, I would say.
Could you expand on that?
So there was like a lot more things that were like broken, and there were just a couple infestation problems that we ran into.
Did you have to take care of the infestation?
We did not take care of that. We got as far as...
I was going to say, I know a volunteer project can help at my house, but it's not... Okay.
No, we got as far as we could, and then we finished that part.
Right, of course. So what did you do for the house to maybe give it your own touch?
So I was in the bedroom, so I really focused on making sure that their bed was nicely made, that it wasn't just like thrown around, like pillows just everywhere. I think we put a TV in there, just giving them a normal bedroom.
So tell me about the class. Tell me about your class.
Personally, I enjoyed the class. So we focused, so it was about Catholic social teaching, so talking about humanitarian rights, why we should help others, what we can do for others, just being able to be good people, I would say, in that aspect.
Is there something that stood out, though, that you think maybe you understand a little bit differently now than you did before?
Miss McGinnis really tried to put us in the view of these people, so like how they would live if they had like no money. So we were very in their perspective. So we played like a game where we were given a certain amount of money and we had to last the whole month with only a certain amount of money, and most of us got through, some of us didn't, and that just really showed like the struggle that most of these families have with getting through a normal month for most of us, but how hard it is for them.
There's a lot of talk about people who are coming to this country from other countries, and you may hear some of that. What do you think about some of that conversation?
I find it unfair. The new laws that are being in place, I find it completely unfair. These people come here for new opportunities, and that's what America's always been since early times. We've been a place of opportunity for outside, like people from everywhere, and it's not good that we're taking away that chance for them to be able to be new and create a good life for themselves, especially since so many of these people are not just coming for themselves, but they're coming for their grandchildren, for their children, for their children's children.
We also caught up with student Katie Connolly. She helped out in the house for the folks from Afghanistan.
Okay. Wow, it gets noisy here between classes, huh?
Yeah.
Is this standard? This is the way it is every day?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Very good. Which is like my high school.
Yeah.
Except it was like that during class too. So what do you know about the family that whose house you set up? Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, I know. I actually got to meet the father.
Oh.
He showed up to the site with his cousin who had come a little bit earlier, I think like a few months before him. So he was super excited. He was like on FaceTime with some of his family, and he was showing them the house, and he was like overjoyed. And then he had 2 sons, and then I think a grandma and a grandpa was coming, and then 2 daughters. So there was a lot of people, and I think it was a 2-bedroom house.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, did you do anything? Did you put a little special touch in there just from you?
It was nice. A lot of people donated toys, which was like super nice, because even though some of the kids are in their teens, they've never had toys of their own before. So it was super nice that each bed we left, I think in the boys' room we separated pretty evenly. There was like some figurines and some unopened toys. So I thought that'd be super exciting to walk into your bedroom, your first ever bedroom, and see that.
Yeah. So what do you think you've learned about refugees? What do you think you understand about the refugee experience now that you didn't know before?
Well, now I understand currently, within the last month, that a lot has changed than when we were learning about it. I've learned that it's not an easy process and it's tedious, and there's no guarantee that you're going to find a home or be resettled. It's really just a hope and a prayer that you're going to make it. And now with the new administration, it's really interesting to see that the project's completely shut down, so we were one of the last people to even help out the refugees. So I think my perspective has really changed, and I'm really grateful for what I have, and I was grateful that I was able to help those refugees when I could.
All kinds of things for moms and babies.
And we finish our conversations from the day of sharing with the person who organized the event and led us through corridors and up and down stairs. Bridget McInnes, Campus Ministry at the Buffalo Academy of the Sacred Heart.
Do you have a sense, like what is impactful as you're watching maybe the students go through these days?
Sure. I think that you can see in their eyes some understanding, and then the actions that they choose to take after the day. They really take this to heart and use it to move forward in a positive way in Western New York, and that's kind of really why we do what we do. We want them to share the gifts and talents that they have, and to remember, right, that not everyone has the same start in life that most of us get. So that's a nice opportunity for them to kind of have compassion for other people.
So you've done this now 11 years, and you say you have an understanding that how it does impact, and some have taken it and moved forward with some of these lessons. Do you have any stories or thoughts about that or examples?
Sure. We know many, many students who continue to then go and volunteer for the organizations that they have done community service with because of this day. And then they take it and they take a friend or they take a family member, and that connection and opportunity to volunteer and just grows, right? It magnifies. And so it's an opportunity for them to introduce other people to the things that they've learned from the day. So in some ways, as they say, you teach one person one thing, you're really kind of expanding that web and that network of people who then have an opportunity to be a part of the goodness that organization provides too.
And I'm just also wondering, again, maybe reflecting on the type of mediocre student I was, and then it's cynical. But have you seen maybe one of these days kind of really change a kid, like where they maybe came out of their shell or found their way moving forward?
Absolutely. I had a dad reach out to me recently who said that the opportunity to work with and for a refugee family that was coming into the United States might have changed her entire life and given her a career path and an interest where she was rudderless. So, something like this, you never know really who it's touching until you look back on it, 6 months, 10 months, 3 years later. So that, I get a little choked up when I hear those things because, you spend a lot of time designing, implementing, thinking all the things through, and you have no idea how that's going to kind of germinate and grow. And, so when you hear that, that makes it worth all the effort that you've put into it.
Bridget McGinnis, Campus Ministry at the Buffalo Academy of the Sacred Heart. A special thanks to her and everyone who allowed us to take part in their annual Day of Sharing. For my colleague Khadara Wright, I'm Jay Moran. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of What's Next after this short break. And when we return, Saladin Allah sits down with Dr. Doretha Williams of the Smithsonian and Terry Alford of the Michigan Street African American Heritage Corridor. This is What's Next on Buffalo Toronto Public Media, NPR.
A glimpse into the zoo after hours. You're on the Soundbeat.
When the shades of night are softly creeping up across the gardens at the zoo.
Sure, you've heard of night at the museum, but what happens when all the animals get tucked in? Let's listen to Ada Jones with Nighttime at the Zoo, a blue Ambrol cylinder from 1914.
Now the leopard hangs his weary head, then the tawny tiger stops his prowling. Every beast is thinking of his bed. Oh my! Good night, Mr. Elephant. Tiger, cease your play.
Ada was one of the most popular performers of her era, particularly for her duets with Billy Murray and Len Spencer.
Sleep well, Mr. Orangutan.
Soundbeat is produced at the Belfer Audio Archive, home to one of the largest cylinder collections on the planet. You can choose from over 1,400 right now. Google Belfer Digital or go to soundbeat.org. I'm Brett Barry.
Facts, context, conversation. Your trusted local news source has a new name, but our mission remains the same. BTPM NPR. Explore more at btpm.org or download the BTPM Listen app.
You're listening to What's Next, our place to discuss the important issues of our communities of Western New York and Southern Ontario. We want to hear from you. Click on the Talk to Us option in the BTPM Listen app, and we will work to get your questions or comments on the air. Do you have a story or concern that we should be addressing? Email us using what'snext@btpm.org. Together, we'll have the conversations that are needed. This is Buffalo Toronto Public Media, NPR.
Peace and welcome to another edition of What's Next. I'm your host, Saladin Allah, Director of Community Engagement at the Niagara Falls Underground Railroad Heritage Center, Public Programs Coordinator for the Niagara Falls National Heritage Area, and founder of the Atlantis School for Gifted Youngsters. Today, we're going to be discussing an exciting community curation project that will be taking place right here in the city of Buffalo. It's a beautiful collaboration between our beloved Michigan Street African American Heritage Corridor and the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture. So with us today, we have Terry Alford, who is the Executive Director of the Michigan Street African American Heritage Corridor, and Doretha Williams, who is Director of the Center for the Digitization and Curation of African American History at the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. I want to welcome you both on the show. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
I first just want to acknowledge just the importance of this project. I'm excited for you to be here, to be able to share this with not just, our local Buffalo community, but our entire region, because this is something that you typically do not see that is actually going on. So I kind of want to start with you, Doretha, to kind of give us some insight into what is this curation community project.
Yes, we call it community curation because it really starts with the people. And we make sure that we go across the country and help people to preserve their local histories, preserve their family history, their institutional history. It's so important because without the community narratives and histories, you don't have a national museum. So part of what this project is a thank you to communities across the country for making the National Museum what it is today. And we do what our founding director, who's now the secretary of the Smithsonian, Dr. Lonnie Bunch, we tell the unvarnished truth. We are making sure that we're preserving this history and being true to what communities are already doing. So Buffalo is the bookend to what we've started so far. We started in 2017.
Okay.
In Baltimore, and the team we have now, I think at our highest number we were about 14. I think we're about 11 folks now, but we were going back and forth and working with Buffalo community. Baltimore community. And then we moved over to Denver, and then we were in Chicago, New Orleans, Nashville, St. Louis. And so Buffalo is the bookend to what we're doing so far in this first round of the project. I was thinking about a title the other day, and I was like, from Baltimore to Buffalo. I think it sounds great. But it's a wonderful project. It really takes what we do at the museum and takes it on the road. And we bring what we do at the museum and we place it in the community. But we work with the community. We come with a blank slate. And everyone here, whether it's the team at Michigan Street, whoever it is, you tell us the story and you tell us what you need to preserve it. And so we make sure we're hand in hand with the project. We are not extractive. We are not exploitive. We are holistic and inclusive. We are not the collecting arm of the museum either. So whatever is dealt with here, we do not remove it from the community, whether physically, if it's an object or a photo. We also don't misuse narratives. All we do is the service to the community.
Wow. And the way that you're describing the process, I assume that it's also part educational, because I'm sure a lot of our community members are just not aware of not only the importance of this work and this project, but just also just the value of a lot of our stories and our cultural artifacts. What has been some of the challenges that you've seen thus far with this project?
Well, some of the challenges really go back to making sure that we are trustworthy. It's difficult to come in as the Smithsonian and say, we're here for the community. This. There may not be an understanding of that. There may not be an understanding of the history that could actually be the truth, right? Because you can come in and say everything, we're great and we're for the community, but it could be extractive and it could be exploited. And one of the issues is we as a large organization have to understand how exploitive other projects have been. And so you're dealing with people who have had their narratives misused, have had their items purchased, the photographs. There are other institutions, I'm not going to name any names, that do that. So I think one of the biggest issues is not on the community, it's on us. It's on me to come in and say, we are not extractive. We are not going to exploit anything here. We are service to the community first and foremost. So that's the big thing. You need to make sure you have trust, which is why we've been here already for a year or so. It'll be another year or so before we do the project. It's about multiple touch points. It's about being seen in the community. So, this person is trustworthy and this person is coming in to not even tell anyone what to do. We're not here for that. We're looking at what's already going on and the great work of preserving local histories, and to uplift that, elevate that, support that in any way. So that's the first thing, coming in and saying we're trustworthy and making sure we stand by our word. And then I think the second thing is just making sure that we're embedded enough so that we can get your aunt to pull the pictures out of the attic, right? And that we're doing this early enough, so early and often, right? So you get that message that, hey, this group is here to help view and examine this history. So those are two. It's one of it's Smithsonian. We have to show that we are trustworthy, and the second one is to be so embedded in the community that people are attracted to it, to bring their material, to bring their stories, to open their hearts and their histories to us.
And I think that relationship building that you're speaking about,
very important,
is critically important, especially with the African American Heritage Corridor over Michigan Street, and the important work that Terry's doing over there, because he's embedded in the community, Terry, this project, how does this work in conjunction with a lot of the amazing work that you and your team have already been doing over in the corridor?
That's a great question, Saladin. First, I think this initiative that's headed by Dr. Williams here is a godsend to where we are as a corridor right now in terms of what we're looking to try to do with our storytelling and all the things that we're doing with our capital projects, to now focusing on creating programming. We're now actually even starting to develop a repository. And when we were selected, Buffalo was selected by this initiative to be a part of this great thing. Not only were we excited, we were ecstatic because, not only are you a new way of engaging our community to participate in collections and sharing, I call it their antiquities, actually. Not just objects, their antiquities to us. Again, it was a godsend. So we're putting a lot of monies, as you already know, into building out that corridor, focusing on our four, what we call cultural anchors, the Michigan Street Baptist Church, the Reverend J. Edward Nash House and now Museum, the Colored Musicians Club and Jazz Museum, and of course Wellford Radio's Black Radio History Collective. They all have their own unique collections and things of that nature that we're looking to build out and safeguard and preserve for generations to come. But what we didn't have before this initiative came about was a means of really engaging the community directly. I started in 2020. As soon as I walked in the door, I started receiving calls, Doctor, from various folks from the community. He says, "Hey, Terry Alford, my great grandmother left me this coin, okay." And I think it was from the Pan American Exposition because it's branded that way.
Wow.
And I want to donate it to you. I want to donate it. And or I get a call from someone else who has a collection of old vinyl records of old Miles Davis or John Coltrane.
Wow.
That was recorded in Buffalo, maybe.
Wow.
Right? Or Billie Holiday, okay? And some of her heirlooms that she left in Buffalo. Though she married someone here, a drummer who played and performed regularly at the Colored Musicians Club. And these folks are contacting us, asking us to take these things in, these items, because they know they're important and they're valued, and they know they can't pass it down to their children or grandchildren because it doesn't maybe contain the same value right now for them. So they want to share these items, but we can't take them in because we don't have a place to adequately and safely store them or digitize them, if you will, record their existence and catalog them effectively, appropriately. So, the digitization, initiative that's we're being invited to be a part of with Dr. Williams and her team is a godsend because it's an answer to so many people's, questions right now. When these great folks came in last year and they were introduced to our community and our stakeholders, then and still now, Dr. Williams, people are quite excited about when is that program going to start? When is the initiative going to start? Okay. You have folks at their own residences that have these small museums, if you will, of things that they brought up during the Great Migration to Buffalo. Okay. We have folks in churches with their own antiquities and don't know how to effectively, record or to share those type of things. So this is an opportunity to allow for their involvement and their engagement, and that just opens up a whole nother, set of doors for the corridor. We're now more than just a place or a destination to really celebrate our histories and storytelling. Now it's a means to allow folks to share their histories and stories with us and with the community at large.
Absolutely, and then you think about the future stewardship of projects like this and the preservation component of it. And, just speaking to you initially becoming the executive director there and then people initially reaching out to you, that says a lot about that relationship building and that sense of trust.
Absolutely.
That people are willing to take their family heirlooms and antiquities and to be trustworthy that you know what to do with it. There's not many of our people who are in those positions that are safeguarding and protecting our history and our culture. So this kind of collaboration is super exciting.
And you said it well. I mean, it's interesting. They don't know me more from Adam than Eve, right? They know I'm a son of the community directly. But for them to reach out to us, and to trust us, sight unseen, and really willing to share these items with us. I'm glad the doctor said what she said about, being worrisome about exploiting stories, and I think it says a lot, with after just meeting you the first time and your team, the excitement, sort of bridges that gap between trust, because we look like them, okay, and especially in the current events, the way they are now, the highly charged political climate that we're in, I think this really further galvanizes the community too in such a way to say, hey, I got a story, you got a story, you got a story, and coming together and sharing those things in such a way with people even on sight unseen as well.
And you talk about the team that we have. One thing that people like when we're coming in the community, it's not just one person. It'd be different. It's just me walking in like, we can do all of this, and you never see anyone, right? But we have a full team. We have our media digitization team. We have our genealogists. We have our historians. We have our curators who come with us. So it's an effort. It's a heavy lift, but it's an effort that's supported by the museum. And it's supported by everything we do. So it's not just one person coming in and saying we have a team, and this is a Smithsonian-wide project that is supported, and that builds more trust as well, because we can handle that lift and get it done.
One thing that just came to mind is, recently, I'm sure both of you are aware, the U.S. National Park Services removed and then restored the image of Harriet Tubman and content from their website, which also boldly highlighted the agency and self-determination of people of African descent. And to see something like that happen to such a world-renowned figure right? I don't think that many people understand what that signals in terms of the potential erasure of many other important, unknown and known prominent figures within our community. So just thinking about like this particular day and time, do you see that projects like this take on even more of a importance?
Definitely. They're more important now than ever. They've always been important. But when you are pushing against the active erasure of history, you have to push to preserve it more, and you have to push to preserve it more within the community, right? You have to empower the community where that history comes from, because that's where the strength is going to be. That's where the pushback is going to be in the community, with those who have created the history, with the elders, with the young people coming up. It's very important to establish strength generations, like through generations right now, right? We often have those generational misunderstandings and arguments like this. There's no time for that at this point in time. We have a program that we have a fellowship program, and we host a fellow 2 to 3 years. This fellow must have at least one degree from a historically Black college or university. And then we host them for 2 to 3 years to do this work, to do community curation specifically. And one of our fellows, Paul Springer Jr., he's our newest fellow. He's here with us today.
Oh, excellent.
We take him around, and he's, we just take him around wherever we are. And so he is experiencing this as a younger person who is in this field, growing and developing. And so I just put him in there. I'm like, this is your job now. This is your life now. So we were talking the other day. He was like, man, I've never done this much traveling in my life. But the thing about that is, like, we are ensuring and nurturing the next generation of professionals in this field. And this is so important. We have our elders and we have other generations, but it's so important to keep those generational connections, and definitely at a time like this, it's so important.
Yeah, and I think also him just being present in this space.
Yes.
And for younger people to see him and the possibility of working in a space like that and being genuinely himself at the same time, right?
Yeah. It's go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to just add really quick that I think over the last, I want to say, 3 decades or so, many of us have sort of taken for granted our histories, because we haven't been pushed to do so. We haven't been, assaulted, and I use that word, not sparingly. There's a full, frontal assault on our histories right now and our heritage, and it's vitally important that we galvanize together now, and I think that's happening. It's great to hear about your fellow. It's interesting enough that after the last election, local professors of African descent have sort of started reaching out to the corridor, right, to see how they can be connected, how they can connect their students. And, this past Saturday, I was at Buffalo State University. I was participating as a presenter there as part of their Buffalo Black Speaks conference, their inaugural conference. And it was put together by the students there in Africana Studies. And is again, it embodied and it really showed, the symbolism of passing that baton down to the next generation that follows us. If people like us, when we go out, Saladin, and talk to the community, we always say we sit on the shoulders of so many that comes before us, or we always talk about the people behind us, passing the baton. But it's so really true now, important that there has to be more than just words now. And people are now galvanized, and they're coming together and working together to really enhance and preserve our stories and our histories that many times are embodied in these collections and these antiquities that families have that uniquely tell who they are, where they're from, and why they're important and valued as human beings.
Yeah. So in terms of when is this project going to start here in Buffalo, and what will be the process, and how can people actually get involved in participating in this?
Yeah, well, we've already had the pre-conversation, so it's already started.
Okay.
But our team will be here stationed May through June in 2026.
Okay.
And so from here on out, we'll be having conversations. We have a conversation coming up to talk about what programs and projects do we need to support that are already going on, what projects we're going to create. We have some signature projects, so we'll definitely be having all of our equipment here to digitally preserve history, whether that's media, whether that's photo. So that'll be definitely something we always do, but also doing genealogy programs and bringing our genealogy reference assistants to work with the genealogists here and the historians here to talk about Black families in Buffalo. We will have a couple of programs that we do at the museum. One is called A Seat at the Table, and that is a conversation about social justice over a meal. And so it's based on the history of the region or the city that we're in at the time. And we take that on the road with us as well. So we'll be having different conversations about the programs that we're developing. And it's going to be great. It's over a 6-week period. So between May and June, we hope to finalize the dates in the coming days. And then from here until October, we'll be back in October for another group meeting.
Okay.
We'll be planning. We hope to, by October, have the final lineup of programs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Terry, so you're the main contact here in Buffalo, I take it, in terms of people wanting to connect with, getting involved in this project. How could they connect with you?
So easy. That's easy. They can always just call us up at our office, 716-322-1002. Again, that's 716-322-1002. Or go to our website at Michigan Street, Buffalo at information.com. We'll be readily out in the community. Don't worry about that in terms of helping to promote this and to really get the community stirred up and just keep them informed about when this all is going to happen. A lot of these activities will be occurring in the corridor, but also understand that you have a mobile unit that'll be going directly to certain sites in and around the community in Buffalo to collect and record and digitize people's objects that they like to preserve for posterity, if you will. Okay. So we'll be readily out there boldly and unapologetically, really promoting this initiative. We're very excited to have the Smithsonian here and Dr. Williams and her team.
Absolutely. So what are some of the objects that community members are going to be able to bring to either get digitized or to get,
Yeah, well, we welcome really 2 formats at this time. So that's any media. So that's your VHS tapes, your cassette tapes, film, all those what we call moving images and sound. So people will be able to bring those items to be digitized. Everyone receives the original product back as well as the digitized assets on a thumb drive. And so for the flat items people can bring in their photographs, newsletters, whatever paper product, flat items. A lot of people bring in their diplomas from their elders, like grandma and grandpa's, diplomas, photos of family reunions. There's always somebody's church secretary who brings the obituaries. Like we always kind of have that same type of collection of material. Bring those in to be digitized. We also do a program called Treasure, Saving Our African American Treasures. It's out of a different department at our museum, but we had them on the road with us in Nashville in 2023. So we're not sure if we're doing that again, but that's where you actually bring your objects in to have them reviewed by a curator and have them rehoused in safe packaging. So acid-free boxes, acid-free folders. And that event brings out so many wonderful items. In Nashville, we had about 5 or 6 old family Bibles that people brought in. Yeah. People bring in wonderful items of their family members, diplomas from the elders, just great things, scrapbooks. recipes, all these wonderful items that people bring in to have digitally preserved. And as I said, we are not accessioning, so we don't take any of the items with us. Everyone gets their original item back. We do have a process if anyone is interested while we're there to start any paperwork, if they want to do any type of donation. That does not happen through our project, but we can send it off to other curators and other collection management at the museum. But we always make sure that people know that this is not a project where we're taking items out of the community.
Thank you. Yeah, so I want to thank both of you for being here with us. I'm sure we're going to have more opportunities to talk about this further, because the more that we can get this out to the public, the more participation that we can get.
Awesome.
And excitement around this. So I want to thank both of you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. This is Saladin Allah signing off. Peace.
Support for WBFO and What's Next comes from our members and from Health Foundation for Western and Central New York, where racial and socioeconomic health equity are prioritized. Learn more about building healthier neighborhoods at hfwcny.org.